everybody. I am Dawn Phoenix, and I am a transformational healer here in the Conscious Leadership Community Network. Sorry. Oh, hey, here comes Pallas. I was just doing my little intro and loving it totally.
Good. I was just in a meeting. Sorry, I intended to get here a little sooner, but I just wrapped it up. Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming. So, so I'll talk about myself in a minute. So, Pallas, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. So are we live?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're live. Oh, we're live. Hi.
We are. We're live, baby.
Okay. Hi. Yes. My name is Pallas Dame, and I am the CEO of Authority Establishment and the Conscious Leadership Network. I practice integrative health and integrative energy medicine, and I'm here with Dawn today, supporting her for her first live here through the Conscious Leadership Network. So, yay.
Awesome. Okay, so now I can really do my intro. Dawn Phoenix, and I am a transformational healer here in the Conscious Leadership Network, and I do a bunch of different things. And one of the things that I do is channel higher dimensional beings. And one of those sets of beings are called Phoenix Collective. And they wanted to kind of take part in our conversation today. At some point, they will weigh in as we discuss this month's theme of beginnings. And what they wanted to talk about today was endings, honoring endings as the fertile soil that beginnings need in order to grow. So the example that they like to give us is as humans, we need to connect, in our own ways through our environment to understand certain concepts. And so what they like to tell us is think about the volcano. When there's an eruptive volcano, not to get, like too sciencey, but the pyroclastic kind that are really destructive, and the lava flows everywhere in the ash, and it leaves what appears to be a wake of just death and destruction behind it, which isn't to say that plants and animals don't die when that happens, but science has actually, they've gone and they've done scientific studies where there are plants that will grow after there's been an ash flow that comes through an area that weren't there before. That the ash makes the soil so fertile and rich with nutrients that were not there before, that those new plants grow in the place of the ones that were destroyed. So that's just kind of the concept that they like us to work with as we consider endings and beginnings in our lives. So, Pallas, anything you'd like to add on the topic of endings?
Gosh, yeah. Well, I really identify with the Phoenix idea. That's the overarching concept, because, like, as I've showed you before, with the Phoenix feather tattoo on my arm, I got that tattooed after coming out of a really, really traumatic time of my life with chronic illness, and it was to signify basically the spiritual death of what I'd been before and moving into the next phase of my life and the next phase of my healing and coming out. I might look the same, but I'm a different creature. I'm a different aspects of me, different wisdom, different ways of viewing the world, different me. So there was an ending to the old me and the beginning of a new me, new plants, new animal, new breed, really, in so many ways. And so I really identify with that a lot. And also coming from Washington State, I live in Colorado now, but coming from Washington State and in a very highly volcanic area, and talking about the fertilization of that volcanic ash, the Skagit Valley is the most fertile place in all of the United States. It's where the majority of our crops are yielded from. because of the devastation of the the volcanic ash, of the flows that have happened there over the millennia. And what had been total devastation and destruction is now the most fertile place in our entire country and feeds the majority of our population. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah, nature leads by example. If we see that something is possible, then we understand the fact that we can do that or have that or be that also. So when we come across volcanoes, in our lives, so that we can have our beginnings, the endings need to occur. And I think a lot of the times we don't have necessarily a problem with starting something new, because that's usually for people who don't mind change. Starting something new is fun and exciting, but it's the end of what came before it, because usually there has to be the ending of something, like you said, the death, of the old you, so that there can be this new creature. And we often are, I think it's because we are trained, we're indoctrinated, and quite honestly, I believe programmed from birth to cling to and hold on to what is. And life moves way too fast for that, and we're designed to evolve. And when we are programmed to want to stay stagnant, we have this duality where we have conflict. When something ends, we're programmed to freak out oftentimes when that happens. And that's where we have most of our suffering occur. And then we come out on the other side of it. And that's this space in between is where the magic happens. And a lot of the times it's invisible, that space, but that's where all of the beautiful change and the beautiful transformation occurs. And it's not very often that we are able to really look deeply into that process and understand what's happening in that space between the ending and the beginning. So that's what I kind of wanted to touch on today is, yes, we need to honor endings. And then I think it's important for us to start acknowledging that there is, like you had that, the death of the old you and the new creature, where you had that, in between point that I'm sure, like, it's like birth, it's birthing, it's a messy process, but it's beautiful and powerful and moving. And there's nothing like it.
Yeah, without the stuff in between, nothing else matters either, though. It's what builds who we are. It's what creates the integrity of our being. It's what gives us our wisdom and our experience. And I think that there's a lot of I think in Western culture, it's really tough. We're not given the tools or the wisdom of really how to deal with adversity, because everybody's operating at such a high level of discomfort or trauma or whatnot. And it's that time people tend to look forward to, like, when I get through this, the next thing, life happens when I do this thing, and missing the journey, because we're operating from a different place. But we're also, I feel, within our culture and with what we're not taught, we're also not taught the grace of transition either. And all sorts of transition of energy state, transition from life to what happens after life. Like, it's not part of our flow. And so it becomes the natural process of life becomes traumatic, because it feels so disjointed for the stuff that goes on between this point and this point, where it is part of the flow. And not that would ever be like 100% comfortable. It wouldn't. Like, that's not what makes us grow and learn. But we're just, at least for me and for so many people that I talk to, just not given the tools to see a bigger picture of life, of this is how the process goes. That's just what came up for me.
Mm-hmm. And I love that, the grace of transition, because that circles right back, I think, to what we're not programmed, properly with. We're taught to have, I think we're taught to expect trauma and drama in our lives, and it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way, because that's not why we're here. And I think we're moving into a time now where there are record numbers of people moving through traumatic processes, whether it's due to the pandemic or issues in their own lives that, are indirectly, caused by the pandemic, or just personal things themselves. And we need tools to learn how to navigate that minefield that the transition process can be, if we don't have the proper tools. So I think, like, this month, talking about beginnings and things like that, what I would like to try to, work with, people on is providing support and the tools, to anyone who's interested in moving through transition, to be able to do that. You can do that. You have the power to do that. And I think the first step in this process is letting people know and having them understand that you can do it. It does not have to be a traumatic process, and you can do it with ease and with grace. It no longer needs to tear you down into a million pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so much of what I'm working. I mean, it's what I work on in my practice. It's what I'm working on with myself. It's the books that I'm reading about the bigger picture of how we're all connected, and the trauma and processing and healing from all of it. And there is a significant wave of activated trauma, in the world, within our country, we're not educated on where we came from. We're just not. We're not educated on our ancestors. We don't know their stories. We don't know the impacts of the things that happened to them. We don't know what they passed down truly to us. People have kept things so close to home. They don't talk about the things. And so we show up in life where we're at now, unprepared to deal with the residual effects of what we're still carrying from the people before us, and then layer on our things. And we don't have the tools because we haven't been able, it's not able, it's that we're not consciously aware enough to recognize what isn't ours to begin with when it comes to these things. And so with the kind of work you do, you help people to recognize some of these patterns, some of these experiences, work that I do as well, and the work that I'm doing for myself. It's really diving into, what am I carrying? That is, what am I being impacted with that isn't mine? And how do I unpack those belief systems? How do I unpack those memories? How do I unpack those things that have attached to me, the interference patterns over time, so that I can show up in my life prepared to deal with my own stuff?
Yeah, and I think that's like, I think having those tools in our toolkit, recognizing where we come from, honoring, our ancestors, that's one tool, being able to do that. But the second part of that is, another tool, like you said, is being able to recognize what is ours and what is not. And I think that those honestly should be included in, survival like a survival toolkit. Yes, we need housing and water and, food, things like that, but we need to be able to also self-regulate, be able to keep control over what sets us off and what we are triggered by, because it may not necessarily affect us in the here and now, in this moment, as a life and death impact, but it over time, like a cancer, grows and can be life and death when it comes to a head and we have those traumatic, moments and triggers where we just can't take it anymore. So I think that it's really important for us to seek out people and organizations that we resonate with, who support us on our journeys as we move through the things that challenge us, on an individual basis. Not, there's not one right person who's right for everybody. So, the work you do, the work I do, is important, and there are lots of people out there who are helping, and more are coming on board, I think, at this time now than ever, because there are more people who need it more than ever.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, and that's why the Phoenix Collective has come back to us at this point in time, because I just wanted to circle back to them before we wrap up, because they recognize that humanity, they used to work with humanity. I have a video that I have on YouTube, and I'm going to touch on their history a little bit throughout this month as we talk about beginnings. They used to work with humans in the physical, and then humans kind of misunderstood what was going on and started worshiping them in ways that were not intended. So that's like the short version of it. So they left working with humans, and now they're coming back to work with us from on an energetic level. And so their energy, they see that we're ready for it now. We're more mature, because back then it was sort of like handing keys to a car to a kindergartner. We were not there yet. We were not ready yet, like emotionally or energetically, we were not mature enough yet. Mm-hmm. So now that they're seeing we are, they're introducing themselves back into our culture again. And you see a lot of the places, the symbol of the phoenix is just kind of popping up everywhere. I'm sure you're aware of it, also because those of us who were in tune, with them and their concept, we're highly, sensitive to it. So they see that we're ready, and that right there is a great sign. They see that we're ready for their help, and we have support in so many ways, and they're one of the ways, to help us move into our power. And that's kind of where, I think that we're headed, is taking our power back by using those tools of understanding what is ours and what is not. Because when we give our power away to situations and issues that we're carrying that aren't ours from our ancestors, or that we pick up as empaths from other people, that is being disempowered. But then when we can have that distinction between what's mine and what's not, that's where the true empowerment lies.
Mm-hmm. So how do you integrate their work, their messages with what you do? How do you share?
So a lot of the times I will just either directly channel, or like right now they started coming in and they started giving me kind of notes, like the Cliff Notes version, on what to say. So it's like, okay, you don't have something prepared. Here's what we would like you to say on our behalf. So when I'm working with people and I'm either in a session where I'm channeling directly from the Phoenix Collective, or we're just giving, I'm doing like a coaching session with someone, they will come in and have something specific to the person that I'm speaking to, a message that is specific for that person. And That's when I'm working one-on-one. And then the group work, and this can also be individual work. The Phoenix Collective downloaded a modality to me a couple months ago called Phoenix Fire Infusions. And it's a 5-step process to help people purify what no longer serves and what is not theirs, exactly what we're talking about here. That's the first 2 sessions. The third session is moving into the place, they call it the space of infinite potential. And that's that in-between part that you and I were talking about, where there's the creative process, where we create what's never been before. And then that's another 2 sessions. And then the final session is where we get to create that which has never been before. And we get to use that power and put it right there, like put it into action.
Oh, that sounds really profound. Really beautiful.
I tried it out with a couple of my friends as like a beta version. We tested it, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I would go into each session, I meditated a little bit during the day before just to connect with the Phoenix Collective, and they would give me a heads up, on what we were going to do that night. Mm-hmm. And so I would go in, with my friends on Zoom for an hour, and just say, okay, guys, the Phoenix Collective is going to take over, and just take them through like a guided meditation. And I had no idea going into it what was going to happen. And it was amazing, especially in the space of infinite potential, was incredible. It was like being inside of a nebula, and it just gives you this incredible energy. Like you feel like you can do anything. When I meditated that day, they took me there for a few minutes just to give me a taste of where we were going. And I was jazzed, like I'd had 5 cappuccinos. I was like, get her done, get her done, get her done, like all day long. It was great. So yeah, it's really exciting. So I'm going to be trotting that out very soon, actually, over the next, probably about the next month.
Yeah. Have you thought about?
So thank you for asking.
Yeah. Have you thought about doing maybe like 5 Zoom lives like this with somebody? I'd volunteer. I put all my stuff out there, like to show your process with other people. Have you thought about maybe doing something?
Yeah. I haven't thought about that, but I would totally be down with it. And then people could actually see, how it works. We could do, so if we did it, once a week, it could be like a mini session, not the full on, because if it were the full on, you would need more than a week to integrate everything.
Right.
So yeah, that would be super fun. And I would love to do that with you, especially as connected as you are to the Phoenix, like you would be a great person to work with.
Okay. Well, we'll have to plan that. Can you tell some more about, can you tell some more about the Phoenix Collective? Like, what is their intention? Like, what is their, who are they? What is their energy? What are they about?
So they are about creation and infinite potential. They originate here on the planet in the physical hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. And they were here to show us as guides what we were capable of. And they used their process to show us that. So the process of dying and then falling into the pile of ash and then being reborn from it, they were trying to show us that through a metaphor, a living metaphor, that we are capable of recreating ourselves exactly the way you said. And I have done numerous times in my lifetime, which we all have, that process where we are able to die, have an ending, but then we're that person who the materials are still there, and it's from us and our energy and our drive and our intention to be reborn that we are able to do so. So they were showing us, this is what you are capable of. And the problem back then was people didn't see it within themselves. They weren't ready to see themselves as the powerful beings that they are. So they started worshiping the Phoenix Collective as this great and powerful mythical creature that can do magic, and they kind of missed the point. They didn't see that within themselves. So that's what they're here again, and they've always been all about helping us understand empowerment through the concept of creativity and rebirth. They want nothing more than for us to look inside ourselves and stop handing our power away, and see how creative, the creative masters that we are, and how resilient we are. We can rise from the ashes anytime we desire to.
That's really powerful, because we get stuck in our belief systems that we can't. We get stuck in this like quicksand of just being sucked and pulled down, and we look outside of ourselves. So many of us we look outside of ourselves for other people, other things to like fix it. But what we have to do is look deep inside of ourselves and recognize that we have that infinite potential to do that work and to heal and to pull ourselves out of that muck. I mean, granted, we're all connected and we need to have that human connection and be there to love one another and help one another. But having the empowerment, the knowledge that we are strong and that we are whole, and that we are healthy, no matter what level of trauma we're carrying, being able to come back to, being able to recognize that at some point, that we have that stepping stone in ourselves to stop that slow drudgery of sinking, that we have that phoenix fire. We have that life. We have that infinite potential to heal, to be reborn, to live the life of abundance that we're designed to have, not the life of lack that so many of us get stuck in.
Mm-hmm.
How has the Phoenix Collective impacted your life?
Wow. How have they not? I think is a bigger question. But so when I took the last name Phoenix actually before they started working with me. So I'll just touch upon a few points in my life. When I look back now, I realize they were with me. It starts with my birth. My father was an abusive alcoholic, and he and my mother were married. She was 6 months pregnant with me, and she found drugs in his jacket pocket and flushed them down the toilet because she didn't want that in the house. And he found her doing it and beat her while she was pregnant with me, and her water broke. And at 10:47 the next night, I was born 3 months prematurely. So this is back in 77. So they didn't exactly have a lot of technology, to help out with that sort of an issue when you're born that early. So they basically read me my last rites and baptized me because they weren't sure which way I was going to go. But I pulled through, and 3 months later got to go home from the hospital. And so I kind of think about that as, wow, I was born of fire. Like, this fiery entrance into the world was definitely a way that I came from a very difficult, beginning, and was able to pull myself out of it. I mean, granted, obviously, there was medical help there and my mother's love and everything, but in the end, it was really up to me, as a soul, what I was going to do. So they were there with me, and I look back and I see that. And my childhood growing up, my mother remarried an abusive alcoholic who was emotionally abusive. And there were, until I went off to college, I had that in my household and had to deal with his temper and his emotional manipulation. And I realize now, along with other, support systems I had in place with my friends, the family was hush about it. It was basically, we don't talk about everybody else's personal stuff. So there wasn't any family support, and there was never any therapy or anything. But I realized that I had support from within. Like, I was just supported by something. It always made me want to just fire back at him. And my mom would be the wallflower and just be like, shh, don't say anything, don't say anything. And as I got older, I started to stand up to him and go toe to toe and be the one to say, no, that's not right. No, you can't do this. you need to stop. And not that I'm saying you need to be unsafe when you're dealing with people who are being abusive to you, but it's also important to stand in your power and let them know it's not okay, like you would do with a bully. So they saw me, I think they were there with me through that part of my life. And with my first marriage, after 16 years, I left it. I had a spiritual awakening, and it was obvious that the shift in my marriage wasn't happening the way I needed it to in order to stay in it, which a lot of us, I think, have that occur. And there were other factors that played into it. So my identity as a stay-at-home mom, I have a 13-year-old son. At that point, I was a stay-at-home mom with him from the moment he was born. And as the wife of an Air Force officer, that was how I identified myself as. And when I had that spiritual awakening, I stopped kind of becoming those things. I will always be a mom, you never stop. But that wasn't enough for me. It wasn't enough to be an Air Force officer's wife or just a stay-at-home mom. Not just a stay-at-home mom. It's a lot of work. But I knew that there was more for me out there. And I felt that I was outgrowing that part of my life and being reborn as a new creature. And so when I left the marriage, it was mutual. We all agreed to it, all three of us. And I feel that they were there to help me through it because it was difficult. And there were many nights where I would just cry and wonder if I was doing the right thing. So they were there with me. And then the last time, and this was why I took the last name Phoenix, was I remarried. And that marriage was short-lived because he chose a behavior that was inappropriate for the way that a man should treat a woman when she says no. No means no, and that's that. And so it destroyed me for about a week. And then I took action. I got legal help and a restraining order and started filing for divorce and moved and had to reinvent myself again from that incredibly destructive fire that happened literally in one action, in a heartbeat. And again, like we talk about trauma, I could have gone either way. And there were days where I was teetering on falling off, down that slippery slope. But I had, again, support around me. And I realized I have been through the fire so many times. This is not going to take me down either. Fine, bring it. And it was after that I realized there's something greater at work here. And so I took the last name Phoenix when that divorce was finalized instead of taking another last name. And then it was like 2 years later, I realized the Phoenix Collective was working with me and through me. And I looked back at all these points in my life and realized, wow, they were kind of there lending me their fire.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's huge. And having that support to help you through it. Gosh, that's incredible.
And I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
So they, how it works with our guides and all that, they're there to show us what we're capable of. And so it always felt like I had to dig into something deeper in me. And I didn't realize it was that Phoenix fire that we all have. And it's just choice. We choose. We all have that. They show it as a little pilot light in our heart space. We always have this pilot light going. And it's our choice, whether or not we want to turn it up or turn it off.
Yeah. Gosh, what you just said makes so much sense, though. For that, like I was saying at the beginning, the tattoo that I had gotten coming out of, moving from my trauma, from the experiences that I'd had, it was to show me my potential. Exactly that. It was to show me the infinite possibilities of making it through the fire. I felt physically like I'd been on fire for years. The tense, like the stress and the anxiety and just all the stuff around the Lyme disease and the things with that. And I felt raw. I felt like I'd been through the fire, and getting this Phoenix tattoo, it's like that exact message. And so like you just said, you don't realize what, at the time, it was just you, according to you. And in retrospect, the wisdom and the strength and the potential to be more and do more and survive, and then not just survive, but to thrive, was being downloaded the entire time to help you keep moving forward, help me keep moving forward. There's always a reason people connect.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we first met, like here,
Yeah.
Unfortunately not in person yet. But yeah, and you were talking about, I was like, oh, perfect. This is so wonderful. I mean, everything happens for a reason. So
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Because like when I do dolphin energy healing, and we always say the dolphins bring the best people together. And I'm sitting here kind of going, you know what? The Phoenix Collective does that too. The tribe, all of us together.
Steel Mace or Jackie says, I have an Instagram account called the Phoenix Mama.
I love that. Yay.
That's super cool. You should drop that link in there. We would love to see it. Maybe others would love to see it too. There's a reason that we're connecting with Phoenix today.
Oh, and thank you for that, Jackie. So yeah. And that's the thing, like, again, we're seeing them, all over the place. So tattoos, I've seen people who have it, as part of their logo. For anybody who follows cryptocurrency, I know some people don't. They have like certain opinions on it, and some people do. There's an XRP, it's called XRP, and it's a token in the cryptocurrency world. And a lot of the times people on YouTube, when they're making videos about this particular cryptocurrency, give the symbol of the phoenix for it.
Oh, really?
So, and I read, I watched a video, not to get into that, a couple weeks ago on why, and there's actually a reason why they use that phoenix symbol. So, yeah, they're making themselves known to us, gradually more and more, and coming, into our awareness more and more. And it's sort of like they're trying to do it slowly to make sure, like dip their toes in to make sure that we're ready before they hit too much.
Mm-hmm. At the Phoenix Mama, rising from the ashes is a choice. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That
always.
Exactly.
You always have a choice about everything. Yes, exactly.
This is beautiful. Oh my gosh. Wow. So much to learn. So much to learn from all of this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, is there anything else that really comes up for you today? Have you been, because some of the information's been coming to you, is there anything that the Phoenix Collective wants to share today with the followers, with Jackie, with me, however it works, with you?
Yeah. So what they really wanted to have us think of the concept of that soil, that fertile soil. They want us to remember that endings are necessary. They don't have to be painless. And they're going to be messy, Sometimes we can move through them beautifully. Sometimes not so much. But we always have a choice. And they really want us to focus on understanding and acknowledging that space in between. That's where the beginnings happen. It's not when something new is up and running, a new relationship, a new job, a new facet of our life. The magic is actually in that creation process. And we are the ones in charge of how that process goes, whether or not it's ugly and painful for us, or whether or not we can choose to look inside of ourselves and say, I can do this. Not to say that you can't ask for outside help from anyone, but everybody can give you advice until they're blue in the face and hug you, and it helps. But in the end, you are the one who needs to take that step forward, spread your wings, and fly like the phoenix you are. So they really want us to focus on trying to get process with ease and love, understanding that it's okay to feel however we feel. and just love ourselves right through it, because we're being carried on wings to the other side, and we often don't even know it.
Right. That's beautiful. That's so powerful and so important. Definitely relevant to me, the things that have been going through my mind and my energy and where I've been focused lately. It's beautiful. Well, Dawn, how can people find you? How can they connect with you? Do you have a website? Where can people go to find you?
Sure. So here it's been scrolling. I'm part of Conscious Leadership Network, and Pallas is the you're the CEO or the OO. Which one?
CEO. The
CEO.
EO.
That's what I thought. Make sure I got it right. So I'm a member, there, and a moderator at the Conscious Leadership Network. So down there we have that, and I do have a website, and I can. Is there a way I can put it in a chat, or
you can drop it in the comments if you want to?
Yeah, comments. It's called Dawn's Lighthouse, and it's kind of spelled funky. I'm working on a new website called dawnphoenix.net, but that's not ready yet. So this is what I use for now, and it goes over all of the ways that I work with people and with animals, actually, also. I'm also on Facebook under Dawn's Lighthouse. I have a YouTube channel, also called Dawn's Lighthouse. And that's where I put up channeled message, and there is the channel from the Phoenix Collective there. So yeah, those are, and it tells me that it won't post the website, so it's fine.
We can also
I'll say it out loud. It's saying, we can what?
So we can also put it in the description on the YouTube page also, but go ahead and say for anybody that's watching.
Oh, yes. Yep, we can do that too, because that's what you do. So it's Dawn's, DAWNS, and then a hyphen, little dash, and then light, LIGH, then another dash, house, HUSE.com. And I'll definitely put it in the description on YouTube. So it'll be clickable and linkable and all that good stuff.
Tremendous. Okay. And I know that you're going to be having some pretty cool stuff coming out inside of the Conscious Leadership Network pretty soon as well, aren't you? Do you want to talk about what you're building?
Yep, I'm starting a tribe. Yes, actually, I am going to be building a tribe. I'm working on the finishing touches, and I'm going to come up with that, I think, in April after I move. And it's going to be a community within our Conscious Leadership Network. The tribe is for people who are going through the awakening process right now. When I went through my awakening process, I didn't have anybody around me that was going through the same thing, or it was even spiritual. So I felt like I was bumping around in the dark, and things that were happening to me were terrifying me, and want who are through their processes now to have a place where they can come and be in community with other people who are also going through the process, and to have some guidance and some love as a community. And with those of us who say, I have been through that before, or I'm going through that now, and just to give them a safe place to land and some tools, that they can use to help them, again, move through the process. Because my mission, my soul mission here is on the planet, is to help people have smooth transitions in a number of ways, and this is one way that I can help with a type of transition.
Yep, that sounds wonderful. I already know people that would be highly impacted by that type of opportunity and community to be connected with. All right, well, we are working on 45 minutes here, so I would say that we should probably wrap up. And like all good YouTubers, to like, subscribe, comment, follow us. You can find Dawn all over the internet. Come check us out inside of the Conscious Leadership Network. You can see the address there. And it's just been amazing talking to you today, Dawn. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
You'll be back
Thank you.
next week, and people can start following you and learning more. And maybe we'll get some of your Phoenix Fire infusion sessions going between you and me that people can follow as well. See how that goes.
Yes, awesome. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Pallas.
Bye, everyone.